Owning a car has always been a rite of passage for young people in North America. When I was young, all of those years ago, it was every teenager's dream to own a car the moment they turned 16. The freedom to go wherever you wanted and not have to rely on public transportation was much less important than the clout it gave you with your friends and classmates. And even without rich parents, for a kid willing to work a part-time job, it was a realistic possibility. Oh, how times have changed. Although much more difficult and expensive now, sadly, car ownership in the West is a necessity, as cities are designed specifically to separate housing, shopping, and business, making that expensive car almost impossible to live without. But what about China? Do kids here dream of their first cars at 16? Is it as hard to buy a car in China as it is in North America? And is it even necessary? Let's talk about it. 大家好，我是 Surat 在中国. Hey everyone, it's Surat in China. How y'all doing today? I hope you're having a lovely day. I'm having a great day over here in Shenzhen. Getting better all the time thanks to so many of my viewers helping to support the channel by either hitting that subscribe button, throwing me a thumbs up. Some of you are joining the membership program or buying me a cup of coffee. 谢谢你们. And hey, I've got a bunch of new videos coming out on the other channel, Surat Travels, from my recent trip to Huyen. I hope you all run over there and check it out. It's a lot of fun. But for now, let's talk about owning a car and the differences between doing so in China and North America. Having worked in the auto sales industry myself in Canada, I can tell you that the auto industry is ruthless when it comes to making sales. The prices of vehicles have gone up and up and up, way outpacing salaries and general disposable income. The days of a 16-year-old working a part-time job and owning a car are over. Period. Kaput. In the past, a young person, or adult for that matter, might save their money for a couple of years and buy themselves a reliable ride. However, car ownership is so expensive now that even second-hand cars often require bank loans and financing for hardworking middle-class folks with decent jobs. With the ongoing onslaught of corporate greed, trade wars, and tariffs, nowadays, financing is the only reality. And trust me, as someone with inside experience in the cutthroat auto industry, it is a scam. Unscrupulous dealerships will do anything to get you into a new car, even if it means financing that car for 5, 6, 7, or even 8 years into the future. The vast majority of auto manufacturers will offer only 3-year warranties, very much on purpose, because they know at that point the cost of regular maintenance and ultimately repairs is going to become increasingly expensive. Add these large regular expenses to the ongoing payments for 2 to 5 more years, and modern car ownership becomes a money trap. And it doesn't stop there. On top of maintenance, repairs, and payments, one needs to factor in mandatory and incredibly expensive car insurance. This is another for-profit industry that has gotten out of control in recent years, with lack of government oversight due to privatization. Insurance payments can often be as much as double the actual monthly finance payments of the car itself. Of course, this does not affect the elite 1% of our society, but for the vast majority of hard-working North Americans, this is an unfortunate and costly reality. So why not just rely on public transportation? Surely it's cheaper and much more efficient than owning a car. Well, not so much. To put it in a nutshell, modern North American neighborhoods are created by design to absolutely require car ownership. Public transportation is simply not what it used to be, as everything in North America is for-profit business these days. Bus and subway services often are incredibly inconvenient, expensive, and not safe. In order to cut costs and increase profitability, services such as security and cleaning take a back seat, way in the back. Crime on subways and even buses is not uncommon anymore in the West, and drivers are powerless to help unless they want to become victims themselves. And bus routes are getting shorter, while wait times are getting longer. In Canada, this can be even more uncomfortable, as the bus companies no longer provide shelters, let alone heated ones. So standing outside in minus 40-degree winter weather, waiting an extended period for a bus can not only be uncomfortable, but it could be dangerous. It used to be that there would at least be a bench or a shelter to get out of the rain or snow, but now most modern bus stops consist of a sign and a very long wait time. On top of all that hardship, now many suburbs and housing dense areas have incredibly reduced service times. My last house in Canada, for example, only had bus service during peak hours, 7 a.m. to 11 a.m., and then 3 p.m. to 8 p.m. So if you worked anywhere outside of those hours, say for example at the mall or at a restaurant until 9 p.m., you would not have a bus home. Period. You would have to rely on incredibly expensive taxis or Uber to make your way home, unless you or a kind person you knew had a car. And in the long run, the price was not even cheaper than gasoline for your typical commute. Monthly bus passes did save money overpaying daily, but were often more than a person would have spent on gas commuting anyway. Another key factor to the absolute necessity of automobile ownership is the urban design of modern cities in North America. If you look at any map of a modern city, let's look at my Canadian hometown, for example. Shopping centers, grocery stores, household goods, clothing, and other large retailers are often lumped into areas on the outskirts of the city, closer to the highways, to make their supply chain and logistics more affordable and convenient to them, but much further away from residential neighborhoods holding all of their customers. Local neighborhoods offer very limited services, such as gas stations, convenience stores, and fast food restaurants. In general, not places folks can buy healthy food for their families, and always notoriously overpriced. The giant retailers like Walmart, Kroger, and Loblaws have driven all of these smaller neighborhood supermarkets almost to extinction. And those that still do exist charge exorbitant prices to keep their doors open. And of course, this applies to jobs and working as well. Residential areas are primarily that: houses and apartment buildings. Industrial, business, and retail areas are often very far away from residential areas. This means the vast majority of workers at any level of the pay spectrum will require commuting. And this becomes troublesome, especially in Canada in the winter months. With unsafe, unreliable, and expensive public transportation, it's not uncommon for an employee to spend 1 to 2 hours in each direction going to and coming home from work. And this is if public transportation is even available near your residence or your workplace. Whereas commuting in a private car can be a bit of a drag, dealing with traffic jams and bad weather, at least it's much more comfortable and convenient than waiting for a bus in the winter. This leaves the majority of households in North America with three simple choices: take inconvenient public transportation, very expensive taxis or Uber, or buy a car and go into debt. These are the realities of car ownership in North America, an almost 100% necessary evil due to poor urban planning. Or, in my honest opinion, urban planning very much designed to enrich the oil, gas, and automobile industries. If you are not one of the 1% elite, and have enormous amounts of disposable income, your vehicle you need to shop and work is very likely going to be your biggest expense and very likely put you into a very uncomfortable and unsustainable debt situation. But what about China? How is it different here? Well, let's take a look. As you may have noticed from the thumbnail, I do own a vehicle, and I love my vehicle. It's a hybrid SUV with absolutely every luxury and safety feature I could imagine on a car. When I worked in sales for BMW Canada, the additional features I have on this car now would have cost me the same price I paid for this SUV just for the features. On top of that, I would still have to pay for the actual BMW in Canada. It is insane. I literally have adaptive cruise control, lane keep assist, blind spot intervention, surround view parking, forward collision warning, automatic emergency braking, pedestrian detection, traffic sign recognition, driver attention monitoring, rear cross traffic alert, rear view camera, and front and rear parking sensors. And that's just the safety features. I also have heated seats, the windshield heads-up display, the large LCD in-car monitor with entertainment center, voice control navigation, electric seats with 3-driver memory, full-size dual-mode automatic sunroof, remote starter, etc., etc., etc. The only features I didn't get were self-parking and air-conditioned seats. I didn't think I needed either of those. I get a range of over 110 kilometers on battery and 1,000 kilometers with fuel and battery combined. I only ever use fuel on road trips. Literally, it's the best car I've ever owned. So I know you're curious. How much did it cost? Well, I paid 175,000 renminbi, which is 33,700 Canadian dollars or 24,180 US dollars. Aside from a minor registration fee, that's it. No sales tax. Now, the registration and license plate in China is rather interesting compared to North America. As the Chinese government is pushing to move to green energy and therefore electric vehicles, there are huge incentives to go EV or hybrid. For example, although you still have the option up until 2030 to buy a gasoline-only powered vehicle, you will pay a premium for the registration. To get an EV or hybrid green license plate is fast and inexpensive, typically around 20 Canadian dollars, 14 US dollars, and it takes a day or less to arrive. However, a gas vehicle license plate, blue, is a whole other story. Not only are they very limited, but also very expensive. In my case, had I bought a gasoline vehicle, to get that blue plate and be able to drive, I would have had two choices. Either enter a lottery system and wait until I was finally chosen to receive the blue license plate, which could literally take many months, or go to a nearby smaller town or city to register my vehicle there, as there would be less competition for license plates. However, in either case, the cost would have gone from 100 renminbi, 20 Canadian dollars, to 90,000 renminbi, 17,300 Canadian dollars, or 12,400 US dollars for a license plate. And I am not even kidding. This is what it costs for a blue license plate in Shenzhen, over half the price of the vehicle itself. Wow. Obviously, I went green. Insurance in China is also incredibly affordable. I pay less than 3,000 renminbi a year, which is about 575 Canadian or 415 US dollars, and it's tied to the car. As long as the driver is legally licensed, the car is insured, with no extra cost for different drivers. Aside from that, I have a 5-year maintenance package with the dealership, and all service charges for standard maintenance are covered during that time frame. So when it comes to purchasing, the vast majority of buyers pay cash up front. As I have mentioned in many of my previous videos, China is a saving culture. It is common for families to bank 40 to 60% of their household income every single month and live within their means off the remainder. This gives them the ability to make large purchases with relative ease. And keep in mind, I bought a very nice and fully featured vehicle, but there are many more reasonable commuter options available. The BYD Seagull, for example, a very efficient and stylish 4-door commuter car, can be purchased for 56,800 renminbi. That's less than 11,000 Canadian or 8,000 US dollars. And that's for a brand new car. And if you're looking for just a simple commuter for going to work and shopping every day, you can get a brand new Wuling mini EV for half of that. Crazy, right? Well, it gets even better. The Chinese government is now also offering subsidies and trade-in programs for older cars, running or not. Subsidies of up to 20,000 renminbi, 3,850 Canadian or 2,760 US dollars, are being made available to spur on the green energy wave across China. It is also possible to finance your auto purchase if you choose to, though it is much different than the predatory lending systems in North America, which will try to gouge you for high interest rates for many, many years. Oftentimes, long after the car is not even worth driving. But here, there is the simple option of a 1 to 2 year payment plan. It does require half the vehicle purchase price up front, but the remaining portion can be paid off over 12 to 24 months in equal payments with absolutely no interest. This is not a predatory measure to squeeze a little more blood from the stone, but a government-controlled incentive program to help lower-earning citizens make car purchases. And unlike the North American finance system, even if you're financed, the car is yours. If you stop making payments or default on the loan, there are no repo men coming to reclaim your car in the middle of the night. You own it, not the bank. If it comes down to legal action, it is you against the government, but not at the expense of losing your ride to work because you missed a payment. But the biggest and most important factor in car ownership in China really has nothing to do with the price, financing, or cost of ownership. The simple reality is you don't need a car, period. I only ever use mine for long distance road trips. Chinese urban planning is incredible. Every neighborhood, and I mean every single neighborhood, will have supermarkets, pharmacies, hardware stores, doctor's offices, dentists, restaurants, coffee shops, movie theaters, parks, shopping centers, real estate agents, electronic shops, etc., etc., etc. Unless you happen to live on a farm or in a tiny rural village, you will literally have any and every service you could possibly need within walking distance. And if you did need to go further, there is highly efficient and inexpensive public transportation in the form of subways, buses, Didi, the Chinese Uber, and public rental bikes and scooters. You can go all the way across town on the subway in a fraction of the time it would take to drive with no traffic or parking hassles for $1. Want to go to the movie theater on the other side of the neighborhood? No problem. A 20-cent public bike ride will get you there in 10 minutes. I've mentioned this fact in so many of my videos that Chinese neighborhoods are literally designed to not need a car for day-to-day life. Period. And if you do need to commute, public transportation is amazing and easy. Or even if you want the convenience and luxury of private car ownership, it is affordable and very, very easy to accomplish. Now, as for 16-year-olds dreaming of their first car, well, maybe, but probably not so much. It's very uncommon here for young people and especially students to work, period. Not even part-time jobs. So unless mom and dad are buying them a car, it ain't happening. On top of that, typical Chinese schools would not have any parking reserved for students anyway, unlike North American schools. Overall, it's just much cheaper, easier, and faster simply to take public transportation or a bicycle. So there you go, people. Car ownership in China in a rather large nutshell. What about you? If you lived in China, would you buy a car and join the masses of drivers on the road every day? Would you buy an EV, a hybrid, or are you still stuck on gas? Which car would you buy? Or would you simply save money, relax listening to music or watching Chinese TikTok, and take the very safe, convenient, and affordable public transportation system? Let me know in the comments below. But for now, as always, thank you so much for joining me today, and I will see you in the next video.